Hey y'all, welcome to Sandy's Library. I'm Sandy.
And I'm Sara. In this video we're going to take a look at session 6 of the raw material.
And don't forget about our dogs. They can be noisy sometimes, so please ignore them. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. This is the Law of One, session 6, original recording date January 24th, 1981.
I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite Creator. I communicate now.
Q&A number 1. Question. We would like to continue the material from yesterday. We had to cease before, and y'all, I'm sorry to say, the rest of Don's question is inaudible. I just wonder why nobody thought to write these questions down, since they were writing a book and all. But anyway, we do have Ra's answer, so let's continue on with that.
I am Ra. This is well with us. We proceed now with the third area of teach learning concerning the development of the energy powers of healing. The third area is the spiritual complex, which embodies the fields of force and consciousness, which are the least distorted of your mind-body-spirit complex. The exploration and balancing of the spirit complex is indeed the longest and most subtle part of your learned teaching. We have considered the mind as a tree. The mind controls the body. With the mind single-pointed, balanced, and aware, the body comfortable in whatever biases and distortions make it appropriately balanced for that instrument. The instrument is then ready to proceed with the great work. That is the work of wind and fire. The spiritual body, energy field, is a pathway or channel. When body and mind are receptive and open, then the spirit can become a functioning shuttle or communicator from the entity's individual energy of will upwards, and from the streamings of the creative fire and wind downwards. The healing ability, like all other, what this instrument would call paranormal abilities, is effected by the opening of a pathway or shuttle into intelligent infinity. There are many upon your plane who have a random hole or gateway in their spirit energy field.
Well, that's convenient.
Sometimes created by the ingestion of chemicals such as what this instrument would call LSD, who are able, randomly and without control, to tap into energy sources. They may or may not be entities who wish to serve. The purpose of carefully and consciously opening this channel is to serve in a more dependable way, in a more commonplace or usual way, as seen by the distortion complex of the healer. To others there may appear to be miracles. To the one who has carefully opened the door to intelligent infinity, this is ordinary. This is a commonplace. This is as it should be. The life experience becomes somewhat transformed, and the great work goes on. At this time, we feel these exercises suffice for your beginning. We will, at a future time, when you feel you have accomplished that which is set before you, begin to guide you into a more precise understanding of the functions and uses of this gateway in the experience of healing.
That's the end of Ra's answer. And they say that people who ingest LSD can't control the streamings of energy. But eventually, they're going to learn how to control it. And that's the part Ra's not talking about. What they are saying, though, is very deep. But I think it's all about not just opening the third eye, but also how vital it is to keep a constant stream of intelligent infinity coming in. And y'all, it doesn't matter how you get there or how you stabilize it. All the infinite creator cares about is that you get there. And if you really pay attention in these sessions, you'll see the infinite creator doesn't care what we do, so long as we do something. Okay, on to Q&A number 2. Question. I've been asked if it is possible for Tom Flaherty to attend one of these communication sessions tomorrow. Are you familiar with the entity Tom Flaherty?
I am this mind-body-spirit complex sound vibration of Tom Flaherty is acceptable. We caution you to carefully instruct this entity in the frame of mind and various appurtenances which it must understand before it is conducted into the circle.
Appurtenances. Yeah, we had to look that one up. It means an accessory or other item associated with a particular activity or style of living. Nevertheless, on to Q&A number 3. Question. I'm not quite sure what you meant by appurtenances. See, Dawn didn't know either. But anyway, on to Ra's response.
I was referring to the symbolic objects which trigger this instrument's distortions towards love light. The placement and loving acceptance of them by all present is important in the nurturing of this instrument. Therefore, the appurtenances involved must be described, and their presence explained in your own words of teach learning, for you have the proper attitude for the required results.
And again, Ra is telling us just how difficult it is for Carla to make contact with them. Nevertheless, on to Q&A number 4. Question. He'll understand me. We'll be very careful to totally inform Tom before he attends. Thank you very much. It seems to me that it might be an appropriate time to include a little more historical background of yourself. Possibly information having to do with where you came from prior to involvement with planet Earth, if this is possible.
I am with the social memory complex of which I am a part. One of those who voyaged outward from another planet within your own solar system, as this entity would call it. The planetary influence was that you call Venus. We are a race old in your measures. When we were at the 6th dimension, our physical beings were what you would call golden. We were tall and somewhat delicate. Our physical body complex covering, which you call the integument, had a golden luster. In this form we decided to come among your peoples. Your peoples at that time were much unlike us in physical appearance, as you might call it. We thus did not mix well with the population and were obviously other than they. Thus our visit was relatively short, for we found ourselves in the hypocritical position of being acclaimed as other than your other selves. This was the time during which we built the structures in which you show interest.
Okay, so they said when they were in the sixth dimension of their physical beings. That makes me feel like they were talking in a past tense sort of way, like when they were in the sixth dimension. So that makes me wonder, are they saying that densities and dimensions are two entirely different things? It kind of sounds like it, but later on they'll use dimensions and densities interchangeably. I do also notice that some of Don's reactions to a lot of what Ross says is just so out of left field. Like, for instance, Ra tells him that they were golden beings. And this doesn't seem to faze Don at all, because in Q&A number 5, he asks, question, how did you journey from Venus to this planet? And that is a viable question, but I think I personally might have inquired a bit more about those golden beings, though. But anyway, Ross says,
We used thought.
So, they used thought to travel from Venus to the Earth. Look, y'all, that ain't exactly helpful to us humans. Nevertheless, on to Q&A number 6. Question. Then would it be possible to take one of the people at that time from our planet and place him on Venus? Would he survive? Were conditions much? And y'all, I'm sorry to say, the rest of Don's question is inaudible. Ra's answer, however, is intact. So, let's get on with that.
The third density conditions are not hospitable to the life forms of your peoples. The fifth and sixth dimensions of that planetary sphere are quite conducive to growing, learning, teaching.
That's the end of the answer, and boy, now Ra's thrown out 3-word terms to us. So now we gotta grow, learn, and teach all at the same time. But anyway, on to Q&A number 7. Question. How were you able to make the transition from Venus and I assume the 6th dimension? Which would that be invisible when you reached here? Did you have to change your dimensions to walk on the earth?
You will remember the exercises of the wind. The dissolution into nothingness is the dissolution into unity, for there is no nothingness. From the 6th dimension, we are capable of manipulating by thought the intelligent infinity present in each particle of light or distorted light, so that we were able to clothe ourselves in a replica visible in the third density of our mind-body-spirit complexes in the 6th density. We were allowed this experiment by the council which guards this planet.
That's the end of the answer, and what they say is truly a lot to take in. And to be honest, y'all, one of the distortions that this brings to me is this is what happens when the lab rats become aware. But anyway, on to Q&A number 8. Question. Where is this council located?
This council is located in the octave or 8th dimension of the planet Saturn, taking its place in an area which you understand in third dimensional terms as the rings.
The 8th dimension of the planet Saturn. That boggles and blows my mind all at the same time. Nevertheless, on to Q&A number 9. Question. Are there any people, such as you find on Earth, on any of the other planets in this solar system? And you know, that's a simple question. But do you think Ra can give a simple yes or no answer? If they are indeed talking to Ra. Because, look, out of 9 questions so far, including this one, they've only started their response with, I am Ra, 3 times. That's a little out of character for them. And I'll let y'all in on a little secret. Spoiler alert. Later on, as we progress through the sessions, Ra will acknowledge that someone else is listening in on these channelings. Nevertheless, on to the response about whether or not there are any beings similar to us humans found on other planets in our solar system.
Do you request space-time present information or space-time continuum information?
I think Don probably meant space-time present when he asked the question. But it was smart of him to say in Q&A number 10, both.
At one time space in what is your past, there was a population of third density beings upon a planet which dwelt within your solar system. There are various names by which this planet has been named. The vibratory sound complex most usually used by your peoples is Maldek. These entities, destroying their planetary sphere, thus were forced to find room for themselves upon this third density, which is the only one in your solar system at their time-space present, which was hospitable and capable of offering the lessons necessary to decrease their mind-body-spirit distortions with respect to the law of one.
To be quite frank, y'all, the only way to decrease our mind-body-spirit distortions is to die. 'Cause y'all, all distortions is experiences. You know, living your life. But anyway, on to Q&A number 11. Question: how did they come here?
They came through the process of harvest and were incarnated through the processes of incarnation from your higher spheres within this density.
That's the end of the answer. And I don't think Don and Ra, or whoever's speaking through Carla, are on the same page. But anyway, on to Q&A number 12. Question: how long ago did this happen in our years?
I am having difficulty communicating with this instrument. We must deepen her state. This occurred approximately 500,000 of your years ago.
And that's the end of the answer. And I know a lot of folks will scoff at that number, 500,000. But yeah, I think mankind, in some form or another, has been around for a long, long time. Plus, it's awfully arrogant of us to think we're the smartest creatures to ever live. But anyway, on to Q&A number 13. Question: thanks. Is all of the Earth's population, then, human population of the Earth? Are all of them originally from Maldek?
I am Ra. This is a new line of questioning and deserves a place of its own.
And finally, we hear the words, I am Ra, again. And how about that new line of questioning bit? It's a little curious, to say the least. But anyway, back to Ra.
The ones who were harvested to your sphere from the sphere, known before its dissolution as other names, but to your peoples as Maldek, incarnated many within your Earth's surface rather than upon it. The population of your planet contains many various groups harvested from other second dimension and cycled third dimension spheres.
They said, harvested from other second dimensions and cycled third dimension spheres. See, harvesting means you die, because those folks were harvested there and reincarnated here. But anyway, back to Ra.
You are not all one race or background of beginning. The experience you share is unique to this time-space continuum.
To be honest, y'all, it kind of gives you the feeling that the Earth might be a dumping ground, don't it? Nevertheless, on to Q&A number 14. Question. I think it would be appropriate to discover how the law of one acts in this transfer of beings to our planet and the action of harvest.
I am Ra. The law of one states simply that all things are one, that all beings are one. There are certain behaviors and thought forms consonant with the understanding and practice of this law. Those who, finishing a cycle of experience, demonstrate various grades of distortion of that understanding of thought and action will be separated by their own choice into the vibratory distortion most comfortable to their mind-body-spirit complexes. This process is guarded or watched by those nurturing beings who, being very close to the law of one in their distortions, nevertheless have the distortion towards active service. Thus the illusion is created of light, or more properly but less understandably, light love. This is in varying degrees of intensity. The spirit complex of each harvested entity moves along the line of light until the light grows too glaring, at which time the entity stops. This entity may have barely reached third density, or may be very, very close to the ending of the third density light love distortion vibratory complex. Nevertheless, those who fall within this octave of intensifying light love then experience a major cycle, during which the opportunities are many for the discovery of the distortions which are inherent in each entity, and therefore the lessening of these distortions.
This is all great information about the spirit world, but they really didn't answer Don's question beyond in an esoteric sort of way, which we all know is not what Don was asking for. Nevertheless, on to Q&A number 15. Question. What is the length in our years of one of these cycles currently?
One major cycle is approximately 25,000 of your years. There are 3 cycles of this nature during which those who have progressed may be harvested. At the end of 3 major cycles, that is approximately between 75,000 and 76,000 of your years, all are harvested regardless of their progress. For during that time, the planet itself has moved through the useful part of that dimension and begins to cease being useful for the lower levels of vibration within that density.
That's the end of the answer, and sounds to me like we can just dance around for 75 or 76,000 years. They basically said we'll get harvested at the end of 3 cycles, whether we're ready to or not. Because at that time, the planet ain't going to be useful to us anymore, since it'll be moved out of our lower vibrational frequencies. And they ain't going to leave us here, so we're harvested regardless. Someday, I may feel differently about this, but as of now, I'm of the mindset, doesn't matter what we do, good or bad, in the end, you will be harvested. And why are y'all so eager to be harvested anyway? Don't y'all know? 99.9% of us gonna be right back here, or sent to some other planet out there. But anyway, on to Q&A number 16. Question: what is the position of this planet with respect to progression of the cycle at this time?
I am Ra. This sphere is at this time in fourth dimension vibration. Its material is quite confused due to the society memory complexes embedded in its consciousness. It has not made an easy transition to the vibrations which beckon. Therefore, it will be fetched with some inconvenience.
Well, that's the end of Ra's loaded answer. And this ain't gonna be popular. While I do believe what Ra is saying is true, I also believe there is something that Ra is leaving out. And I think I know what it is. But I want y'all to draw your own conclusions. So I'm just going to suggest that you keep that last bit tagged in the back of your mind for future reference as we move through the sessions. Just tag it. Ra told us the Earth is having a hard time moving into fourth density vibration. And as we move through the sessions, continue to look for clues as to why the Earth is having such a hard time with this. Ra tells us throughout the 106 sessions in bits and pieces. Y'all just got to try to put it together. That's all. And remember, y'all, the original recordings were in 1981 through 1984. So anyway, on to Q&A number 17. Question: is this inconvenience imminent within a few years?
I am Ra. This inconvenience or disharmonious vibratory complex has begun several of your years in the past. It shall continue unabated for a period of approximately 30 of your years.
That's the end of Ra's answer. And y'all remember, this session was recorded in 1981, so that means they're talking about 2011. So, how's the world been getting on since 2011? And be honest with yourself too. That right there is very telling, if you're honest with yourself. Nevertheless, on to Q&A number 18. Question: after this 30-year period, I am assuming we will be a fourth dimension or fourth density planet. Is this correct?
I am Ra. This is so.
And again, I'll ask y'all, what direction do you think the world has been headed in since 2011? Plus, their answer is a bit misleading. In an upcoming session, they will tell us that transition will take 100 to 700 years. Anyway, on to Q&A number 19. Question: is it possible to estimate what percentage of the present population will inhabit the fourth density planet?
The harvesting is not yet, thus estimation is meaningless.
See what I mean? Evasive. Anyway, on to Q&A number 20. Question: does the fact that we are in this transition period now have anything to do with the reason that you have made your information available to the population.
I am Ra. We have walked among your people. We remember sorrow. We have seen much. We have searched for an instrument of the proper parameters of distortion in mind-body-spirit complex.
Well, that's one way of putting it. Nevertheless, back to Ra.
And a supporting and understanding group of mind-body-spirit complexes to accept this information with minimal distortion and maximal desire to serve for some of your years. The answer in short is yes. However, we wished you to know that in our memory we thank you.
Yeah, that's a whole boatload of nothing. It's another one of those evasive type answers from where I'm sitting. What they said can be taken in so many different ways, y'all. Nevertheless, on to Q&A number 21. Question. The disc-shaped craft we call UFOs have been said to come possibly from the planet Venus. Would any of these be your craft?
I am Ra. We have used crystals for many purposes. The craft of which you speak have not been used by us in your space-time present memory complex. However, we have used crystals and the bell shape in the past of your illusion.
That's the end of Ra's very elusive answer. But on to Q&A number 22. Question. How many years ago in the past did you use the bell-shaped craft to come here?
I am Ra. We visited your peoples 18,000 of your years ago and did not land. Again, 11,000 years ago.
And they never said whether or not they landed 11,000 years ago. Things that make you go, But anyway, on to Q&A number 23. Question. The photographs of the bell-shaped craft and reports of contact from Venus exist from less than 30 years ago. Do you have any knowledge of these reports? And before we get to Ra's answer, let's not forget that they're talking about 30 years prior to 1981.
I am Ra. We have knowledge of oneness with these forays of your time-space present. We are no longer of Venus. However, there are thought forms created among your peoples from our time of walking among you. The memory and thought forms created therefrom are a part of your society memory complex. This mass consciousness, as you may call it, creates the experience once more for those who request such experience. The present Venus population is no longer 6th density.
This is the end of Ra's very complex, if not a bit contradictory, answer. I mean, in session 1, they tell us they're from Venus, and now they're no longer of Venus. They're just not being forthcoming, in my opinion. And it's beyond me how Dawn could hear Ross say that the present Venus population is no longer 6th density, yet do you think he asked about this present population that's supposed to be on Venus in 1981? No, that didn't seem to concern him at all. Nevertheless, on to Q&A number 24. Question. Do any of the UFOs that are presently reported come from other planets here at this time? Or do you have this knowledge?
I am one of the members of the Confederation of Planets in the service of the infinite Creator, there are approximately 53 civilizations comprising approximately 500 planetary consciousness complexes in this confederation. This confederation contains those from your own planet who have attained dimensions beyond your third. It contains planetary entities within your solar system, and it contains planetary entities from other galaxies. It is a true confederation in that its members are not alike but allied in service according to the law of one.
That's the end of the answer. And while they did give us some great information about the Confederation, that's not what Don asked. He wanted to know about UFO sightings of the past 30 years and where they came from. And remember, this was 1981. But anyway, on to Q&A number 25. Question: do any of them come here at this time in spacecraft in the past, say, 30 years?
I am Ra. We must state that this information is unimportant.
To you, maybe. It's kind of a big deal to us humans, though. But anyway, back to Ra.
If you will understand this, we feel that the information may be acceptably offered. The law of one is what we are here to express. However, we will speak upon the subject. Each planetary entity which wishes to appear within your third dimensional space-time distortion request permission to break quarantine, as you may call it, and appear to your peoples. The reason and purpose for this appearance is understood and either accepted or rejected. There have been as many as 15 of the Confederation entities in your skies at any one time. The others available to you through thought. At present there are 7, which are operating with craft in your density. Their purposes are very simple: to allow those entities of your planet to become aware of infinity.
Why? Why do we need to become aware of infinity? We were sent down here veiled for a reason. Nevertheless, back to Ra.
Which is often best expressed to the uninformed as the mysterious or unknown.
Anybody here starting to feel like lab rats? I mean, they say quarantine is broken to allow us to become aware of infinity. Yet, we were sent down here with this veil of forgetfulness for a reason. Seems a little bit contradictory to me. On to Q&A number 26. Question: I am fully aware that you are primarily interested in disseminating the law of one. However, it is my judgment, could be wrong, that in order to disseminate this material, it will be necessary to include questions such as the one I have just asked, for the purpose of creating the widest possible dissemination of the material. If this is not the objective, I could limit my questions only to the application of the law of one. But I understand that at this time it is the objective to widely disseminate this material. Is that correct?
I am Ra. This perception is only slightly distorted in your understand learning. We wish you to proceed as you deem proper. That is your place. We, in giving this information, find our distortion of understanding of our purpose to be that, not only of the offering of information, but the weighting of it according to our distorted perceptions of its relative importance. Thus you will find our statements at times to be those which imply that a question is unimportant. This is due to our perception that the given question is unimportant. Nevertheless, unless the question contains the potential for answer giving, which may infringe upon free will, we offer our answers.
And the big question is, whose free will are they talking about? Humans, Ra's, or someone else's? But anyway, on to Q&A number 27. Question. Thank you very much. We do not want to overtire the instrument. It's now considerably over the normal working time. Could you tell me the condition of the instrument?
The instrument is balanced due to your care. However, her physical vehicle is growing stiff.
Well, if she's balanced, then how is her body growing stiff? Things that make you go, But anyway, on to Q&A number 28. Question. In that case, perhaps we should continue at a later time.
We shall agree. Therefore, unless you have a short question, we will take our leave.
Q&A number 29. The only question I have is that I must assume, since Leonard was here when you first made contact, it'd be as suitable for him to be here as Tom. Is this correct?
This is correct and completes the number of those at this time able to come who are suitable. Again, remember the instructions given for the preparation of the vibratory sound complex, Tom. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one creator, Adonai.
Okay, so that was the last Q&A of this session. And the big thing that I get out of session 6 is in a huge chunk of these 29 questions, Ra does not start their response with, I am Ra. Why? Look, y'all, from the get-go, they've been a stickler, for the most part, in saying that right off the bat, and then going into their answer. And I'm wondering why. And look, y'all, the thought has crossed my mind that Dawn might have been talking to somebody else without even knowing it. And to be honest, I've heard Carla make some pretty weird noises at the end of some sessions on these tapes after Ra has seemingly left her. So I'm not convinced that Ra is the only entity or group that she was channeling in even these first few sessions. Plus, it's not like Ra can offer up that info if she was. They've told us numerous times that they can't offer any information. They have to be asked specific questions. And spoiler alert here, in later sessions, they do manage to warn Dawn that someone else is monitoring their conversations. So, I'm not convinced that all of this info was coming from Ra. And even if it wasn't, is it a bad thing? Hell if I know.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back soon with session 7.
Later, Gators.